The vase was worth $62,000. I had just looked it up on my phone in the service corridor's bathroom while I was supposed to be bringing fresh champagne glasses to the main kitchen. I make $36,400 a year. The math, if anyone needs it spelled out, is this. If I work every shift for the next year and a half and eat nothing and pay no rent and buy nothing, I could almost cover what just happened in the last 4 seconds. 4 seconds. That's how long it took my elbow to catch the edge of a display shelf and send a Qing Dynasty porcelain vase. Blue dragons on white clay, 1795, according to the little brass plaque I was looking at when the catering manager's voice came over my earpiece telling me to move it to the north kitchen, off that shelf and onto a Cleveland marble floor that a restoration specialist had flown in from Pittsburgh to Polish 3 days ago. It sounded like a gunshot. That's the thing people don't tell you about antique porcelain. It doesn't shatter quietly. It explodes. Blue fragments, dragon heads cracked in half. 1,000 years of craftsmanship turning into pieces that a dustpan was never going to pick up all of. I was on my knees inside of a second. On my knees picking up shards with a dish rag, because that's what you do when you've just destroyed your life at a catering gig. You pick up the evidence because maybe if you pick it up fast enough, the last 4 seconds will reverse themselves, and the vase will go back onto the shelf and the job will still exist when this night ends. That's when the footsteps came. Not the hurried footsteps of the catering manager who was going to fire me. Not the embarrassed footsteps of another server who'd come to help. The slow, measured footsteps of a man who owned the floor he was walking on. I didn't look up. I couldn't. If I looked up, the night became real. Don't move. A man's voice. Older, quiet. The kind of quiet that isn't soft, the kind of quiet that's the opposite of soft. The quiet that comes from a throat that has spent 60 years issuing instructions and has never once needed to raise in volume to get them followed. I looked up. He was standing in the doorway between the service corridor and the main kitchen. Late 60s, tall, silver hair cut short, a tuxedo that fit him the way clothes fit people who have never in their lives worn anything off a rack. His face was narrow, intelligent, the kind of face you see on the covers of business magazines at the airport and never actually meet in real life. I recognized him from the briefing we'd gotten at 5 o'clock. Theodore Whitaker II, the host, founder and chairman of Whitaker Industrial Holdings. Net worth, according to the Forbes article our manager had passed around on her phone, approximately $3.4 billion. And he was not looking at the vase. He was looking at my hands. Both of them. Spread out on the floor, fingers splayed, holding the dish rag full of porcelain shards. Under the corridor lights, the scars on the backs of my hands were visible. The scars have been there my whole life. 3 inches across the back of my left hand, curved, raised slightly, the color of old scar tissue that has faded but never disappeared. A burn-shaped mark on the right palm, irregular, smooth, shaped like a leaf with no center. When I was 5 years old, I asked my mother about them, and she told me, "You were a clumsy baby. You grabbed a hot pan. I got you to the sink fast, but you already had the marks." I believed her, for 29 years, because when you're 5 years old and your mother tells you something, it becomes a fact. And facts are harder to dismantle than lies, because you don't know they're lies. They just become the shape of the world. Theodore Whitaker walked across the service corridor in his $9,000 tuxedo and knelt down on a floor covered in porcelain fragments and took both of my wrists in his hands. His grip wasn't hard. It was the grip of a man who was afraid that if he let go, I would disappear. "Those scars," he whispered. "Where did you get them?" I tried to pull my hands back. He didn't let go. "Sir, I'm sorry about the vase. I'll work off whatever. The vase doesn't matter. Tell me about the scars." My mom. "I grabbed a hot pan when I was a baby. I'm sorry, sir. I need to get back to—" "No." He said it so quietly, I almost didn't hear it. He was still holding my wrists. His eyes were moving over the scars, tracing them, the way a man traces something he has looked at in photographs for so long that his vision has memorized the shape. "These aren't burned scars," he said. "Sir?" Burned scars from a hot pan would be smooth. The tissue would be contracted, shiny, with uniform texture. What you have is laceration scarring. Raised tissue, the curved one, the 3-inch one on the back of your left hand, that's not from a pan. That's a medical instrument injury. That's an IV catheter that was removed too quickly, tearing the skin. And the palm, the burn-shaped mark, That's a thermal injury that healed without proper treatment. Almost certainly no medical care at all. Topical application only, probably for weeks, leaving that leaf pattern where the skin cells failed to regenerate uniformly. He paused. His voice was shaking now. I know what these scars are. I have studied them in photographs for 33 years. I stared at him. In the main kitchen, I could hear the string quartet playing Pachelbel. I could hear the murmur of 200 guests. I could hear someone laugh. I could hear the clink of a champagne glass being set down on a marble counter. The world was still going. The world did not know that it had just stopped. "Sir," I said carefully, "I don't know what you're talking about." I know you don't. That's why I need you to come with me for 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "Sir, I need to—" "Please." The word came out of him like a man pulling a drowning body out of water. "Please. Billionaires don't say please to dishwashers." I stood up. There was porcelain dust on my knees. My apron was smeared with it. I looked at my hands, the hands that he had been looking at. And for the first time in my life, they looked like they belonged to someone I didn't know. I followed him. His name was Theodore Whitaker II. I learned that as we walked through the main floor of the mansion, and the catering manager saw us together and almost dropped her tablet, and one of the security guys touched his earpiece and said something urgent into it. Everyone in Cleveland knew the Whitaker name: Whitaker Industrial Holdings, steel, pipelines, infrastructure supply. His face had been on the cover of Forbes that fall with a headline I'd seen at the gas station on Pearl Road and never thought about: The Quiet Billionaire. He led me down a long hallway I was not supposed to be in, through a door that required a code, into a private study, dark wood, leather chairs, a desk carved from a single slab of oak, bookshelves climbing to a coffered ceiling, and photographs, dozens of them, framed on every available surface. One photograph was larger than the others, on his desk, in a heavy silver frame. A woman with dark hair and my eyes. I didn't know yet that they were my eyes. I just knew, in that moment, standing in a stranger's study with ceramic dust on my knees, that something about her face made my throat close up like a door being shut. "Sit down," he said. I sat. He went to a filing cabinet in the corner, unlocked the bottom drawer with a small brass key he kept on a separate chain from his other keys. Not the keychain in his pocket, but a chain around his neck, under his shirt. He pulled out a folder. It had been handled so many times the edges were soft. The FBI case number on the tab had faded to gray. He didn't open it right away. He held it against his chest for a long moment, then he sat down across from me and slid it across the desk. "I want you to look at the top photograph. Just that one, for now." I opened the folder. The photograph on top was a baby, 13 months old maybe, sitting up in a hospital crib with white railings, wearing a little blue onesie. His hands were raised near his face, reaching for someone out of frame. On the back of his left hand there was a curved scar, 3 inches. The same shape as mine, the same position, the same. On his right palm, a burn mark, leaf-shaped, irregular edges, same. I couldn't breathe. I had stopped breathing the way a swimmer stops breathing when something brushes against their leg in deep water. That photograph, Theodore Whitaker said, was taken at Erie Memorial Hospital in Erie, Pennsylvania, on July 18, 1991. The day before, my son was kidnapped from that hospital. His name was Theodore Whitaker III. He was 13 months old. He was born on June 14, 1990. I shook my head slowly. "Sir, this is my mother. My mother is Loretta Boyd. I was born March 8, 1991. I was born at Mercy Hospital in Cleveland." "Were you?" "Yes." "Have you ever seen a photograph of yourself as a newborn, taken in that hospital, with the plastic bracelet on your wrist, the kind they give you in the delivery room?" I opened my mouth, closed it. I tried to remember. There was a photo album at Loretta's house. I'd looked at it 100 times as a kid. Me in a crib, me being held, me in a high chair. But the earliest photo in that album, the one I thought of as the first, I was already sitting up on my own. I was maybe a year and a half old, eating a cracker, wearing a little red sweatshirt with a truck on it. Nothing younger. We lost those in the move, Loretta had said whenever I asked, before we came to Cleveland. I'm so sorry, baby. I had believed her. I had never once questioned it. For 33 years, I had believed the woman who raised me. Theodore Whitaker was watching my face. He was watching it the way a man watches a door he has been standing outside of for 3 decades, waiting for it to open. "I'm not making accusations," he said quietly. "I don't know anything yet. I have had false leads before. Many of them. I'm asking you, and I know what I'm asking, to take a DNA test. Tonight. I have a physician who can be here in 45 minutes. Results in 48 hours. If I'm wrong, I will apologize. I will compensate you for your time. I will replace the vase, and you will never hear from me again. And if you're right, then I have spent 33 years looking for you, and I would like to spend whatever years I have left knowing who you are." I sat in that leather chair. I looked at his face, and then at the photograph in the silver frame on the desk, and then back at my own hands. And I knew, before the test, before the results, before the FBI, before the woman I had called Mom my entire life opened her door in her apron, with the smell of meatloaf coming from behind her, I knew because my hands had always known. "Take the sample," I said. The physician's name was Dr. Prescott. She was 60 years old, and she had been the Whitaker family doctor since the 1980s. She came to the mansion in a navy wool coat, and she opened a small silver case, and she swabbed the inside of my cheek with a plastic applicator, and she sealed it in a tube, and she labeled it with my name. Emmett Boyd, she wrote, because that was still the name I had, and she put it in the case, and she told me I would hear back Monday afternoon. Before she left, she looked at my hands, just for a moment. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly, "for whatever this is about to be." I didn't ask her what she meant. I think I already knew. Theodore Whitaker walked me to the front door at 11:47 p.m. The party was winding down. The string quartet had packed up. The catering trucks were loading in the driveway. No one noticed me walking. Out, a man in a stained apron, leaving through the front door instead of the service entrance, carrying nothing but the scars on his hands. "Emmett," Theodore said at the door. He handed me a business card. "Silas Thorvald, my attorney. His number is on there. If anyone contacts you, call him first. And please, don't tell your mother anything yet." "Why?" "Because if she did what I think she did, and you warn her, she will run. She has run before, from Pennsylvania to Ohio with the stolen child. She is capable of running again." I got in my car, my 2008 Honda Civic with 193,000 miles on it, and a starter that sometimes needed 2 tries. I sat in the circular driveway of a mansion in Shaker Heights and looked at my hands on the steering wheel. The scars I had looked at my entire life. The scars that a stranger in a tuxedo had read like a book. I drove home to my duplex in Old Brooklyn. 90 minutes ago I had been a dishwasher. Now I did not know what I was. My apartment was on West 41st Street, above an old Polish deli that had been closed since COVID. Rent was $875 a month. The upstairs unit. 2 rooms, a kitchenette, a bathroom with a leaking shower head that the landlord had been promising to fix for 8 months. My cat Miso came out from under the couch when I unlocked the door and yowled at me because I was 3 hours late with her dinner. I sat on the kitchen floor and held her against my chest for a long time. I didn't cry. I couldn't yet. The thing inside me that would eventually cry was still too shocked to move. I got up at 1 in the morning and I went to my closet. I pulled out a plastic tote from the top shelf. Inside the tote were the things Loretta had given me when I moved out of her house at 22. Photo albums, a few baby blankets, a small wooden box of baby teeth she had kept, a yellow envelope with my birth certificate and social security card. I took out the birth certificate I had looked at it many times. Mercy Hospital, Cleveland, Ohio, March 8, 1991. Mother, Loretta Renee Boyd. Father, Harold James Boyd. I opened my laptop. I searched Mercy Hospital Cleveland Maternity Ward, 1991. The first result was from the hospital's own website. Mercy Hospital and Medical Center was founded as an outpatient surgical facility in 1982. The obstetrics and maternity wing opened in 1998, with the first babies delivered in October of that year. I read it 3 times. Before 1998, Mercy Hospital did not deliver babies. I picked up my phone. I called the hospital directly. They had a 24-hour information line. I told the woman on the other end that I was researching my family history and I needed to know if there was any way a baby could have been delivered at Mercy Hospital in March of 1991. She was kind. She was patient. She told me no. Sir, I can pull records from 1991 for you if you want, but I can tell you right now, we had no labor and delivery services until October 1998. If your birth certificate says Mercy Hospital Cleveland for March 1991, I'm sorry, but that document is fraudulent. I thanked her and hung up, and I sat at my kitchen table at 2 in the morning, and I looked at a piece of paper I had carried in my wallet for 15 years, a piece of paper I had shown to the DMV and to my employers and to the Social Security Administration, and I realized it was fake. Everything on it was fake. The hospital, the date, the parents, all of it. I opened the photo album. I looked at the first photograph again, me at 1.5 years, sitting up in a high chair, eating a cracker. Why was there nothing before that? I flipped through the album slowly, page by page, me at 2, me at 3, me on my first day of kindergarten, me with Harold, my supposed father, who had died when I was 10 and who I had always been told was my dad. Then I noticed something I had never noticed before. In every photograph of me as a baby, my hands were hidden, behind a stuffed animal, inside mittens, under a blanket, tucked into the sleeves of a shirt that was too big. Every single photograph. For the first 3 years of my life, until age 4, when my hands finally appeared, and there they were, the scars, already faded, already the shape they would be forever. My mother had hidden my hands for 3 years, because she knew. I called her at 9 a.m. Sunday morning. I could hear the meatloaf in the oven. She made it every Sunday for 33 years, the same recipe. "Hi, sweetheart," she said. Her voice was warm, exactly the way it had always been. "You working today?" "No, Ma. Hey, quick question for some insurance paperwork. What was the name of the hospital where I was born?" A tiny pause, smaller than a breath. I would never have noticed it before last night. I noticed it now. "Mercy Hospital, honey, on Broadway Avenue. I've told you 100 times. "Right. And what was her name again, the one who delivered me?" "Oh, I don't remember, baby. It was a long time ago. Why does the insurance need that?" "They're doing some kind of record audit." "Well, it was 33 years ago. Tell them to look it up themselves." "Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Ma." "Are you coming for dinner Tuesday? I'm making the meatloaf. Yeah, I'll be there. Love you more than anything, sweetheart." "Love you too, Ma." I hung up. She had never known a doctor's name. In 33 years, she had never once told me a single specific detail about my birth. Not the doctor, not the delivery room, not whether it had been a long labor or a short one, or whether Harold had been there, or whether I had been born in the morning or at night. Nothing. Ever. Because she hadn't been there. Because there had been no hospital in Cleveland. Because the woman who had raised me for 33 years had never given birth to me. I sat at my kitchen table and I looked at my hands, and for the first time in my life, I let myself ask the question I had never been allowed to ask. Where did I actually come from? Dr. Prescott called at 4:17 p.m. on Monday. I was sitting in the break room at Lakewood Catering, a gray room with fluorescent lights and a vending machine that only took quarters and a refrigerator where someone's lunch had been labeled "Do Not Eat." Sharon for 3 weeks. My coworker Reggie was eating leftover lasagna and arguing with another guy about the Browns quarterback. A woman I didn't know was crying quietly in the corner about something that had happened at home. "Emmett, the results are back. Would you like to come to Mr. Whitaker's house, or would you prefer I tell you on the phone? The phone is fine. Emmett, the match is 99.9999%. You are the biological son of Theodore Whitaker II. I did not say anything. Around me, Reggie was still arguing. The woman was still crying. The fluorescent light was still humming. "Are you still there?" "Yes. Mr. Whitaker has asked if you could come to the estate this evening. But he also said to tell you he understands if you need time. Whatever you need, however long you need it." "I'll come tonight." I hung up. Reggie looked at me. He was 41 years old, 3 kids, married to a woman named Denise who brought him lunch every Tuesday because she worried about him. He'd been working catering gigs with me for 4 years. He was my closest friend in a life where I didn't really have close friends. "Man, you okay? You look like you just saw a ghost." I thought about that. "Yeah," I said. "I think I did." He didn't ask. Reggie was the kind of person who knew when not to ask. He just nodded and said, "If you need to leave early, I'll cover your prep. Take care of whatever you need to take care of. I got up. I walked out of Lakewood Catering at 4:34 p.m. on Monday, November 4th, 2024, and by the time I got to the parking lot, I was crying for the first time in 15 years. Not loudly, not the crying you see in movies. The quiet, terrible, 34-year delayed crying of a man who had just found out that his mother was not his mother and that his real mother was dead. The Whitaker estate at 7 p.m. looked different than it had on Saturday. The party tents were gone. The security was lighter. It looked like what it was, a house where one man lived alone with too many rooms and too much grief. Theodore Whitaker opened the door himself. He was wearing khakis and a soft gray sweater. His eyes were red. He looked 10 years older than he had on Saturday. There was another man in the foyer, younger, late 30s, tall, dark hair, a dark suit, the kind of posture that comes from prep schools and college rowing teams. Emmett, this is my older son, Bennett. Bennett Whitaker looked at me the way a man looks at someone he has been preparing to confront for hours. Before anyone says anything else, Bennett said, I need to say this. My father has been destroyed by hope for 33 years. Every 18 months on average, since I was 6 years old, someone has come forward claiming to be my brother. Every single one of them was wrong. Most of them wanted money. Some of them believed it themselves. Con artists so good they'd convince themselves. My mother died in 2019 believing her son was alive. She died. This family has rebuilt itself. My father has finally begun to let go. If this is another mistake, or if you are running a scam, or if you are being used by someone who has information about us, I will personally make sure you never work in this city again. I looked at him. My biological brother. 2 years older than me. A man I had not known existed 72 hours ago. I didn't come here for anything, I said. I broke a vase Saturday night. I thought I was going to lose my job and the $340 I was supposed to earn. I still don't want your money. I don't want your life. I want to know what happened to mine, that's all. Bennett studied my face for a long time. Then he nodded, once, sharply. Okay, he said. Then we figure it out together. Theodore led us into the study. The file was on the desk. He had added things to it since Saturday. Photographs laid out. A small FBI report dated 1991. A yellow legal pad with handwritten notes in blue ink. I want you to see her, he said. He picked up the photograph of the woman with my eyes. Her name was Patricia. She was your mother. She died of ovarian cancer in March 2019. She was 58 years old. She ran the Patricia Whitaker Foundation for Missing Children for 25 years. She started it the year after you were taken. She never stopped looking for you, Emmett, not for one day. She died still looking. She was your mother. I took the photograph from him. She was probably 30 in the picture. She was laughing at someone out of frame. Her hand was raised slightly like she was about to push. Her hair back behind her ear. My ear. The same ear I had been pushing my own hair behind my entire life. My mother. My real mother. She had died 5 years ago, 40 minutes from my apartment, and I had never known her name. I had never called her. I had never thanked her for carrying me. I had never told her I loved her. She had died not knowing if I was alive or dead or suffering somewhere, and I had been washing dishes in Lakewood, and I hadn't known she existed. I put the photograph back on the desk, very carefully, like I was afraid of hurting it. I'm sorry, I said to Theodore Whitaker. For what? For not being able to find her before she died. He sat down in his leather chair. He started crying silently. He didn't wipe the tears away. She would have loved you so much, he said. Her name was Carla Novotny. She was 52 years old. She had been working cold cases for 16 years. She was one of the lead agents at the Cleveland FBI field office, and she had been briefed on the Whitaker case the first week she had joined the cold case unit, the way every new agent had been briefed on it for 33 years. She arrived at Theodore's house at 9 a.m. Wednesday morning with a laptop and a case file, and the kind of calm that made you believe the world still operated on logic. Emmett, I need to show you some things, and I want to warn you, this is going to be hard. She opened her laptop. She pulled up a scanned document. This is the personnel shift roster from Erie Memorial Hospital, Pediatric Ward, the week of July 15th through July 22nd, 1991. This was the ward where your biological brother, where you were admitted on July 17th for a routine procedure to correct a minor hernia. She turned the screen toward me. I read the list. I stopped at one line. Boyd, Loretta R., RN, Pediatric Unit, shift swap approved July 16th, covering overnight July 19th. Your mother worked at Erie Memorial Hospital. She always told me she started her nursing career at Cleveland Clinic. She worked at Erie Memorial from 1975 to 1991. 16 years. She was in the pediatric ward when you were admitted. She had lost her own infant daughter, Rebecca, to sudden infant death syndrome in January 1988, 3 years before you were taken. Rebecca was 8 weeks old when she died. Loretta never fully processed the grief. She returned to work 3 months later. She continued working in pediatric care for 3 years before the night of July 19, 1991. Agent Novotny opened another file, a hospital ID photograph. Loretta's face. Younger, late 30s, dark hair pulled back, the same smile lines around her eyes that I had seen every single morning of my childhood. Erie Memorial Hospital, Loretta R. Boyd, RN, Pediatric Unit, badge renewed April 1991. This is her most recent badge photograph before the kidnapping. The original investigators checked shift rosters for staff logged as leaving with patients. Loretta was logged as arriving for her shift on July 19th at 11 p.m. She wasn't flagged as suspicious. No one noticed that she had manipulated a shift swap 3 days earlier to specifically be on duty that night. No one noticed that after your brother's surgery on the afternoon of July 18th, she had reviewed his chart twice, more than any other nurse on duty. And no one noticed that her husband, Harold Boyd, had inherited a small amount of money 2 weeks before the kidnapping, which she used to secure a lease on an apartment in Parma, Ohio, in July 1991, 2 months before she officially resigned from Erie Memorial and transferred to Cleveland Clinic. She had planned it. We believe she planned it at least 6 weeks in advance. We believe she chose you specifically because you were the right age, old enough to have distinctive features she could remember, young enough that memory formation wouldn't yet have anchored you to your real family. We believe she took you during the shift, change on July 19th at 11:43 p.m., using a blanket and a medical bassinet to walk out the service entrance. She drove 104 miles to Cleveland that night. By morning, she had a new name for you and a story for Harold. A story about a private adoption arranged through a lawyer he would never meet, with paperwork she had forged herself. He never knew. Harold died in 2001. He never knew. Agent Novotny closed her laptop. She looked at me, and she was the only person who had looked at me with clinical gentleness since Saturday, the gentleness of a professional who had seen many things but had not let them make her cold. Emmett, I have to ask you something, and you can say no. We are going to arrest her this week. You have the right to never see her again. You have the right to let us handle this. But if you want to, and only if you want to, we can arrange for you to confront her yourself with a recording device before we take her into custody. She will not be warned. You will not be alone. 2 agents will be 1 street over. You will be safe. I thought about her apron, the meatloaf on Sunday, the way she braided my hair when I was 7 before I got it cut, the way she had told me, when the neighbor kid mocked me for not having a father, that I was the best thing that had ever happened to her. I thought about the 3 years of photographs where my hands had been hidden. I'll do it myself, I said. The U.S. Attorney's Office signed off on the operation at 11 a.m. on Sunday, November 10th. Agent Novotny briefed me for 2 hours in a conference room at the Federal Building. What to ask, what not to push, when to leave, what to do if Loretta became hysterical, what to do if she tried to leave the house. I wore a small digital recorder taped to my chest under my shirt. 2 unmarked Ford sedans were parked 1 street over. 3 agents were in position. Agent Novotny herself was in the back of one of the sedans with a radio. When you're done, walk. Out. Don't look back. Don't wait for us. We'll come in once you're clear of the house. Okay? Emmett, you don't have to do this. It's okay to change your mind. I'm doing it. She nodded. She didn't try to talk me out of it. I drove to Parma at 5:30 p.m. The sky was the particular gray of Cleveland in November, the color of old concrete, the color that settles over the city for 6 months and does not lift. I passed the Walmart on Ridge Road, where I had gotten my first job at 16. I passed the ice cream place where Loretta had taken me in the summer when I got good grades. I passed the high school where she had sat in the third row at my graduation and cried when they called my name. She had told me lies for 33 years. I parked at the curb. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel one more time. I got out of the car. She opened the door in her apron. The meatloaf was in the oven. I could smell it from the porch, the same meatloaf she had made every Sunday of my life, with the Lipton onion soup mix she bought at Giant Eagle, with the ketchup glaze she had learned from her own mother, with the mashed potatoes that were always slightly too salty because she undermeasured. "Emmett, sweetheart, come in. Dinner's almost ready. You want iced tea? I made lemonade too." "Just water, Ma." I followed her into the kitchen. She was humming. The radio on the counter was playing a Patsy Cline song. "She's Got You," the one about the pictures and the records of her voice. She had set the table for two plates, 2 glasses, a small basket of rolls covered with a cloth napkin. I watched her move around her kitchen for almost a full minute before I spoke. I was memorizing it. I was memorizing her. Because I knew, after the next 30 minutes, I would never see her again. "Ma, I need to ask you something." "Okay, honey, what is it?" I reached into my jacket. I pulled out a folded piece of paper. I placed it on the counter between us, and I unfolded it slowly. It was a printed copy of her 1991 Erie Memorial Hospital ID badge photograph. She looked at it. She did not move. She did not speak. Her hand, the hand that had been holding a wooden spoon, went very slowly to the edge of the counter, and she gripped it the way you grip something when you are afraid you will fall. The oven timer beeped. She did not reach for it. "Ma, Emmett, you worked at Erie Memorial Hospital in 1991. Please, sweetheart, let me. You were on the pediatric ward the night Theodore Whitaker III was kidnapped. Please, tell me what you did." She started crying. I had seen my mother cry exactly 4 times in my life. At her own mother's funeral in 2003, when Harold died in 2001, at my high school graduation in 2009, the day I told her I was getting divorced in 2018. This was the 5th time, and it was different. This was not the crying of a woman who was sad. This was the crying of a woman who had been waiting 33 years to be caught, who had sat at this same kitchen table night after night for 3 decades imagining this exact moment, and who was almost relieved that it had finally come. "I loved you," she whispered. "Please understand that, Emmett. I loved you every single day." "Tell me what you did, Ma." "I lost Rebecca, my baby, my real baby. She was 8 weeks old. I went in to check on her in the morning and she was cold. And the doctors said it just happens. SIDS. There's nothing anyone can do, but I couldn't live with that, Emmett. I couldn't. You went back to work. 3 months later, Harold said it would help. And for 3 years I took care of other people's babies, and every single one of them reminded me of Rebecca. Every one. Until I thought I was going to lose my mind. And then your mother brought you in for the surgery and you were just sitting in the crib and you were smiling at me and you took me. I swear to you I didn't plan it. I swear, on Rebecca's grave, Emmett, I didn't plan it. The FBI says you did. They say you manipulated your schedule 6 weeks in advance. They say you leased the Parma apartment 2 months before. They say you reviewed my chart twice the day before. She looked up at me. Her face was wet with tears. But there was something else in her eyes now, something that had been hidden for 33 years. The truth. "I planned it," she whispered. "Tell me." "I planned it for 6 weeks. I saw you in the ward the first time your parents brought you in for a consultation. You had her eyes, your mother's eyes, Patricia. I had seen her in the hallway. She was crying because she hated hospitals. And I looked at you and I thought, she can have another one. She can have more children. I can't. Rebecca is gone. And God put me on this earth to be a mother, and he took mine, and I thought you were a sign. I thought you thought wrong. I know, I knew even then. Then why?" She didn't answer. I already knew the answer. She didn't take me because she thought I was a sign. She took me because she could, and because grief had hollowed out the place in her where right and wrong lived, and because no one had stopped her. "You gave me scars, Ma. The IV caught on something when I pulled it. I had to get you out fast, I was so scared. And the coffee, I tripped in the kitchen the first week. I spilled it on your hand. I should have taken you to a hospital. I should have. But if I'd taken you, they would have found me. Yes. You chose to keep me over healing me. Say it, Ma. I chose to keep you. My real mother is dead. Her mouth opened, closed. What? Patricia Whitaker, my biological mother. She died 5 years ago, ovarian cancer. She died still looking for me. She died, Ma, while I was 45 minutes away eating your meatloaf. Emmett, please, say her name. Please, say her name. Patricia, you knew her name. I knew. For how long? From the beginning. You kept me from her for 33 years. You watched her die on the news and you still didn't tell me. I couldn't. Say it, Ma. Say what you did. She looked at me across her kitchen, the kitchen where she had fed me, the kitchen where she had tied my shoes when I was 4, the kitchen where she had stitched up my knee when I was 9 and had fallen off my bike, the kitchen that was a monument to a motherhood that had been stolen. I took you, she said. I kept you. I let your mother die without telling her where you were. I'm sorry. I am so, so sorry. I was a good mother to you, wasn't I? I was a good mother. I looked at her for a long moment. You weren't my mother, I said quietly. You were the woman who stole me. And now you're the woman who's going to prison, and my real mother died without knowing my voice, and you're the reason. You. I walked to the front door. I opened it. Agent Novotny was standing on the porch. 2 other agents were flanking her. I heard the low radio chatter. I heard one of them say, "Clear." I heard Agent Novotny say, "Mrs. Boyd, we have a warrant for your arrest." I walked past them to my car. I did not look back. I heard her being read her rights through the open door. I heard her crying. I heard her say my name one last time, Emmett, and I did not turn around. I drove 2 blocks. I pulled over on a residential street where no one knew me. I put my head on the steering wheel and I cried for 33 years of a mother I had never met. For Patricia. For the woman whose voice I would never hear. Loretta Boyd was charged with federal kidnapping, parental interference, falsification of federal documents, and identity fraud. The prosecutor offered a plea deal, 20 years in federal prison. Her public defender advised her to take it. At her sentencing on February 12, 2025, the federal judge asked if she had anything to say. I'm sorry. The judge gave her the full 20 years. She is 72 years old. She will likely die in federal custody. She has tried to contact me twice through her attorney. I have declined both times. The press conference was held at the FBI Cleveland Field Office on November 20th, 2024. Agent Novotny stood at the podium. Theodore Whitaker stood beside her. Bennett stood beside him. I sat in the back row in a gray suit that Theodore had bought me, and I had not wanted to wear but had worn anyway. The headline on the Plain Dealer the next morning was, "Missing Cleveland Heir. Theodore Whitaker III, found after 33 years. Kidnapper was his mother." My current name, Emmett Boyd, was not released. My phone number was not released. My address was not released. Theodore Whitaker had spent an enormous amount of money to make sure I had privacy. I saw some of the invoices. Later, accidentally, I didn't ask about them. I kept working at Lakewood Catering through Thanksgiving. Reggie did not ask me about the news, though I knew he had seen it. The story had been on the local news for a week. He just brought me coffee every morning and said, "Hey man, Brown's lost again, you see that?" and went on as if nothing had changed, and I loved him for it in a way I had never told him and never would. In December, Theodore asked me to lunch at a diner near his office. Not the mansion. A diner. Corner booth. 2 coffees. A plate of fries between us. "I'm not going to ask you to move into my house," he said. "I'm not going to ask you to change your name yet. I'm not going to ask you to be Theodore III. Okay. I want to ask you one thing. Patricia, your mother, she started a foundation, the Patricia Whitaker Foundation for Missing Children. She ran it for 25 years. Since she died, it's been run by a board of directors who do good work but who didn't know her. I've been looking for someone to take it over. Someone who understands what these families go through. You are the only person alive who understands it from both sides. Teddy, I'm a dishwasher. I didn't go to college. I don't know how to run a foundation. You don't have to run it. You would work there, learn it, whatever you can contribute, whatever you want to give, and however long it takes. It's her foundation. It should have someone in it who is hers. I thought about it for a long time. I drank my coffee. I ate 2 fries. I looked out the window at a woman walking her dog past the diner in the December cold. "Okay," I said. "Okay. I'll try." He nodded. He did not smile. He did not thank me. He just nodded and drank his coffee and said, after a moment, "She would be so happy, Emmett." I started at the foundation in January 2025. Part-time. 2 days a week at the foundation, 2 days a week at Lakewood, where I had told Reggie I wasn't quitting yet, because the foundation thing was new, and I needed to keep my real life intact while I figured out the new one. Reggie said, "Take as many shifts as you want, brother. We're not going anywhere." It is April 2026 now. 18 months since the vase. I am standing in a garage in Shaker Heights on a Saturday night, working on a 1965 Chevy Bel Air that Theodore has been restoring for 15 years and has recently given to Bennett and me to finish together. Bennett is holding a flashlight. I am replacing the spark plugs. The garage smells like engine oil and old leather and rain. Bennett's wife, Celia, is in the main house making dinner. Their daughters, Rowan, 4, and Josie, 2, are running around the living room in pajamas. Theodore is reading a book in the chair by the fireplace. I can see all of it through the kitchen window, lit from inside like a painting. "Dad asked if you want to come for dinner tomorrow," Bennett says. "Yeah, tell him yeah." We work in silence. Outside, it starts to rain harder. The sound on the garage roof is steady and close. "Hey," Bennett says after a while. "I want to show you something." He takes out his phone. He opens a video. "This is from 1989, before you were born. Mom is holding me. I was 9 months old." He hands me the phone. I watch it. A woman with dark hair and my eyes is holding a laughing baby. She is laughing too. She is wearing a blue sweater. She is standing in a backyard somewhere in the soft afternoon sun, and then I hear it. Her voice. "Who's my big boy? Who's my big boy? Who's my handsome boy?" Her voice is higher than I expected. Softer. There is a small laugh in it, all the way through, like she can't help it. Like the world is a joke she is constantly almost figuring out. My mother's voice. For the first time, at 35 years old, I am hearing my mother's voice. I watch it all the way through. Twice. I hand Bennett his phone back. "She laughed like that a lot," Bennett says. "Before." I nod. I cannot speak. I lean back down and look at the old spark plug I have not replaced yet. I hold it in my hand for a long moment. "I'm sorry you lost her," I say. My voice is not steady. "And lost me." "We lost each other," Bennett says. "Now we don't." The rain is louder now. We go back to the car. "I want to ask you something. If the woman who raised you, the woman who packed your lunches and braided your hair and held you when you were sick and made you meatloaf every Sunday for 33 years, turned out to have stolen you when you were a baby, from a family that spent their whole lives looking for you, what would you feel? Would you still love her? Would you be able to stop? Would you go to the prison to see her? Would you hate yourself for loving her even a little, even after everything she took from you?" I don't know the right answer. Some nights, I still cry for her the way a child cries for its mother, and then I hate myself because, she wasn't my mother, and she knew, and she let my real mother die without me. Some nights I cry for Patricia, the woman whose voice I heard for the first time 18 months ago on a phone in a garage. Some nights I cry for the version of me who grew up in Shaker Heights, the boy who would have gone to a good school, who would have known his grandparents, who would have eaten dinner with his mother every night for 28 years instead of 0. And some nights I look at Reggie across the kitchen at Lakewood, and I realize that if Loretta hadn't taken me, I would have never known Reggie, and I would have never been the kind of person who knows what it feels like to work a shift with a man who brings you coffee the day after your world ends. Both lives were real. Both lives are mine. I think maybe that's what real is. Real is not clean. Real is 2 things at once, and sometimes 3, and sometimes 100. And you carry all of them and you keep going. Tell me what you would do. Down in the comments. I read every single one, in my apartment at night, with my cat on my lap, with the window open so I can hear the city. Tell me what family means to you when you take the paperwork away. Tell me who you would be in my kitchen that Sunday night. Tell me what you would have said to her. And if this story reached somewhere in you, if you have ever loved someone who hurt you, or been hurt by someone who loved you, or been adopted, or lost a child, or spent years not quite belonging in your own life, tap the like button. It helps other people find this story, other people who might need to hear that they're not the only ones carrying something they don't know how to carry. Share it with someone too. Not everyone, just one person. Someone who has a complicated mother, or a missing piece, or a question they've never let themselves ask. Send it to them tonight. You don't have to say anything. Just send it, they'll understand, and if you want to hear, more stories like this, stories about real people whose lives broke open in ways they never expected, subscribe to the channel. The next story is already coming. I don't know whose it is yet, but someone out there is living it right now, and soon they'll tell me and I'll tell you. Look at your hands. What do they tell you? What did the people who raised you hide in the stories they told? What questions have you never asked because the answers might break something you're not ready to break? Maybe you're ready, maybe you're not. Either way, I'm here, and the comments are open, and the stories are listening. Bennett and I are going to get back to the Bel Air. We've got a long way to go. Teddy says we won't finish by summer, and I think he's right, but it doesn't matter. The point was never the car. The point is the Saturday nights.